Hi, Travis Cook here of Learning How to Think, and it's the 19th of September 2020, and as you can see, my background has changed. I'm at my new place. It's very nice. I'm actually looking at an orchard with chickens out the window. It's very nice. So, today, it seems the government is trying to roll out this new wave of lockdowns. They're testing the water. And people take into account your reality creation abilities of your own mind here. If you're going around telling everyone, oh, we're going to go into lockdown again, oh, the government's going to do this again. I think wording can be very important here. And the word right now is attempt. The government is trying to attempt to lock us down again. And I am confident it's going to fail. But I'm just curious to how compliant the UK people would be. I mean, we have a long history of fighting against these measures, even going back to the mid-1800s when the Compulsory Vaccination Act came out, trying to force the UK public to get these smallpox vaccines, but they didn't want to take them because they thought it did more damage than good, and they should be allowed the choice, etc., etc., and there was a huge battle, and it ended in the conscientious objector legislation being passed, which, gave people the choice to say, no, I don't want the vaccine. And here we are again today. We're not quite yet facing mandatory vaccines, not yet, but we're facing compulsory everything else, like compulsory destroy your business, compulsory wear the mask, compulsory this, compulsory that, don't gather in too many black people, and all this shit. So we've got the modern day version of it. So we're going to have a modern day solution. Because these people, they managed to fight back against this hundreds of years ago with no internet, and they still managed to organise and got together, and they were handing out leaflets and flyers and all this stuff. In fact, here's a nice little example of what was created back then. And you can see there were, you could almost replace the wording for today and it would be relevant. So, yeah, we have a long history of fighting against this, and that's why it gives me great confidence that we will win when we fight against this once more. Because we are, no doubt, don't doubt about it, we are in the exact same situation, fighting for our very freedom, because the people in charge have been compromised, or their colluding with other foreign forces to try and bring this country down, to enact perhaps what some are calling the Great Reset, or whatever their agenda is. And we have to fight back. And we are, which is great. But there are still so many people who buy into this narrative. It's actually quite impressive. But so, thankfully, if they try and roll out a second wave, the fear levels are going to be nowhere near where they were the first time. In fact, people are going to be, I think, a lot more angry. A lot of people will have nothing to lose, and a lot of other people will have nothing to lose if they go into lockdown again. So they're going to push back. It's going to be, some people, it's going to be like, oh, I'm going to be dead or homeless, or on the poverty line if I don't start pushing back against some of this. So for some people, this will really do it. But hey, it may not even happen. The second lockdown may not even come through. I mean, what I think is being attempted is the narrative is trying to be generated. They're sort of putting it out there, and then people start believing it, and then they start to create the actual reality that they want. So they seed the population with the narrative that the cases are rising. And then they try to ramp up the fear, and then they say, oh, we might put more lockdowns in, we might bring in more lockdown measures if we don't, follow the ones that are already here and do what we say and obey, or this will happen. And then you get some people who see people that are resisting this, and they go, hey, you're the reason we have to go into lockdown because you resisted these measures. When hey, guess what? They are not the people who are imposing the measures. It is the government who is doing this. It's not the people. It's not the people who are resisting, just trying to live their lives. It's the damn government who is creating these rules and imposing the lockdown on the people. It's not the people who are trying to resist this and live a free and normal life. That is essentially people policing each other, which is a very big part of this, and it's something that I don't know, it doesn't get talked about too much, but whereby literally like the Agent Smiths of the Matrix, people will go around and they will police each other, telling them, hey, you have to do this because the government said this, and they keep each other in check. So that's what we're we're up against all this how can I say, tattletale culture, where I imagine many people will be like, oh, I can't have a party because what if the neighbours tell into me, tell me to tattle on me. So that's kind of sad that there's quite a bit of that that's probably going on. But this again speaks to how you should know your neighbours. You can be friends with your neighbours, connect, organise, network. That's partly why they want the people gathering in more than six. They want to stop people from talking to each other and realising, hey, wait a minute, the government's gone fucking mad. Hey, wait a minute. I think part of it has been compromised, blackmail, bribes, or it's just stupid or scared, weak. Or just are actually colluding with these forces to try and bring the country down. You have to look at people like Bill Gates and the World Health Organization and how deep they are intertwined into the politics of this country. How essentially a lot of the policies are being driven by psychologists to try and control people, to keep people in this fear narrative. Partly because I don't think the government itself wants to look at what's happened, because they'll realise that a lot of people will realise, if they haven't already, that it was a huge overreaction to do these lockdowns. But ultimately, I think it served to wake people up, so it's been useful in that sense. But yeah, just some of the comments in the Daily Mail article were quite entertaining. Again, that's been good actually. I think must be a bit of a melting pot for people who are sort of resisting this. The comment section on most of the Daily Mail articles recently actually, they've been very good. And yeah, you got one from I am from Droy. And says, we're not flouting it, we've just decided to ignore you and get on with our lives. And that's great. I mean, I couldn't agree more with all of that. And then you got another one from Yorkie Womble. Says, what happens when you have a society that says no? Because we are there now. There are not enough prisons to hold 67 million people, nobody has any money to pay fines, and there are not enough police to enforce mass civil disobedience. Well, you have a very good point, Yorkie Womble. And I'd just like to remind everybody that there is a big protest happening in London on the 26th, which is a week away from today. And it starts at around 12, I guess, 12 noon, looks like the last one, not sure exactly on the time. But it's, that's still happening. So I imagine that will be, that could be quite exciting, all these people gathering together, flouting all of these rules together, singing and chanting and having a good time. I mean, I even saw something that was so pathetic. It was like, it's great that finally a music venue was opening, but so people had to be in like socially distanced pods, and no dancing, singing, and cheering was allowed. Is this really the kind of world you want to live in? Is this really the kind of world, if you have children, you want your children to grow up in? This is insane. This is actually so anti-human and anti-life. But when you see, who the orchestrators of all of this ultimately are, it makes a lot of sense why it'd be so anti-human and anti-life. But we just have to sort of get people who are not waking up, they have to be shown, wherever stage they're at, that there is a very evil agenda working against them, and essentially we are at war. This is a intellectual information war which results in physical consequences. So we are really in amongst it all. And so I would imagine, actually, just on a quick point, if the people were to, their mental energies weren't directed towards fear, weren't directed towards believing in the narrative, and were creating a different sort of reality in a way, and they were putting their thoughts and actions in a positive direction, taking positive action and thinking to themselves, no, I'm never going to go in another lockdown, I don't even think another lockdown will happen, the government's gone mad, the people resist. If you keep this reality, this reality in your, or this narrative, this timeline in your reality, then you'd be amazed at how powerful that can actually be, because we all have individual reality creation powers, and they sort of mold together and create our collective reality. So if enough people are still, emanating the vibrations of love, peace and happiness, and hold that true, do it, keep it in their minds with their thoughts, and take conscious action to make this stuff happen, then we can totally counter the false narrative that's being pulled over our eyes. Because it's like an artificial reality is being pulled over the real reality, and we just have to get back to the real reality, which actually is a lot of fun and it's fucking awesome. So let's get back to the real reality, shall we? This fake reality is just insane. It's been created by insane people. But the thing is, if you buy into this insane reality, then they have all the power because they created this insane reality and they happen to put themselves at the top of this insane reality. So let's break away from that. And I'd just like to end this segment on a really amazing open letter I found from the Belgian medical professionals. And there is like, so I'll just read a little bit from it, and then you guys can look into it for yourself. It says, "We, Belgian doctors and health professionals, wish to express our serious concern about the evolution of the situation in recent months surrounding the outbreak of SARS-CoV-2 virus. We call on politicians to be independently and critically informed in the decision-making process and in the compulsory implementation of corona measures. We ask for an open debate where all experts are represented without any form of censorship. After the initial panic surrounding COVID-19, the objective facts now show a completely different picture. There is no medical justification for any emergency policy anymore. The current crisis management has become totally disproportionate and causes more damage than it does good. We call for an end to all measures and ask for an immediate restoration of our normal democratic governance and legal structures and all of our civil liberties." Powerful. Powerful. These are the doctors, guys. Not the psychologists, not the politicians, not fucking Bill Gates. It's the doctors saying this. Well, that says it all, and I highly advise you look into this letter because it's amazing and it shows that there's huge resistance building up in the medical community. If we get the medical community on our side, the doctors, the nurses, the surgeons, all of these people who are frontline dealing with this stuff, the virologists, we get these guys on our side, and it'll be a lot easier to convince anybody who hasn't yet woken up to the madness that's happening around them. It will make it a lot easier. We get the medical community on our side. Right. Well, I'll leave it at that for now, guys, and I'm going to enjoy my first day at my new place, and I'll see you next time.